We're a couple of minutes slow. It is actually 2 o'clock. Right. I'm John Ward, Chairman of the Joint Museums Committee. I'd like to welcome you all to this meeting. The meeting is being held in person at County Hall and is also being streamed live on the County Council's YouTube channel. A fire alarm test is not expected during the meeting. If the alarms sound, we must evacuate County Hall. In the event of an emergency, please make your way to the nearest exit and meet at the muster point located on the main car park. I know we're not a political agenda, and the important items that we need to debate. I reserve the right to draw debates to a close where councillors are straying from the matter in hand and into promotion of political groups or parties. Now ask for the apologies, please.
Thank you, Chair. We have received apologies today from Councillor Saul Penfold, substituted by Councillor Brian Watkins, Councillor Geoffrey Freeman, substituted by Councillor Brian Law, Councillor Leslie Bambridge, Councillor Sue Linton, Councillor Tony Adams, Councillor Martin Booth, Councillor Richard Laws, Councillor Martin Schmeirer and Councillor Jeremy Rowe. Thank you.
From page 5, does anybody have any comments on those? Are you happy that I sign those as a correct record of that meeting? Yes, thank you. Right, are there any declarations of interest, please? No? There are no updates from me at the present time. We'll move on to item 5, Preckland Area Museums Committee from page 15. And I'll ask Councillor Robert Kybird to introduce the minutes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This is the minutes of the meeting, the 16th of March 2026. We opened with a discussion about co-opting a committee member, and it was agreed that I would invite Sheila Childerhouse, who's Chairman and Trustee of the Charles Burrell Museum in Thetford, and she's accepted that request. We then went on to Ancient House Museum report. Oliver Bone was off sick, so Hannah presented the report on Ancient House. To commemorate the 100th anniversary of Prince Frederick Dulip Singh's death in 2026, the museum staged an exhibition celebrating his life and contributions, including his role in the founding of Ancient House. The exhibition opened to the public in February with a formal launch event on Friday the 13th of March, and the second of 2 exhibitions funded by the current National Lottery Heritage Fund project. There was further second phase display upstairs opened on the same day, focusing on the princes and princesses of the Dulip Singh family. Ancient House has been working with the Spinning Wheel Theatre Company on a 3-year history education project. Each year would focus on a different theme. The Thetford Heritage Collective, which is the renamed Teenage History Club, attended the opening in Great Yarmouth exhibition about Lorena Bulwer in January and met the young people who worked on it. They will be focusing in turn on one of Lorena's samplers, which had reference to Maharaja Dulip Singh, so more of that in a future report. The group will work with Suman Gujral, a multidisciplinary artist of South Asian heritage, working with print, textile and poetry. For the Christmas period, the Thetford Town Lights On event, THC devised a murder mystery evening. I failed to identify the murderer. Visitors step back in time to November 1872 when the Prince of Wales arrived to spend a pre-Christmas weekend with Maharaja Dulip Singh and his family. Then a former member of THC, Matt, has successfully applied and received the inaugural Heritage Open Day micro grant of £500, and he's been running lino cut workshops. Hannah then went on to open the presentation on Gresson Hall Farm and Workhouse. The 2025 Christmas ticketed event aimed at families has been based on war being over in 1945. The museum team visited the Norwich Science Festival at the Forum on Sunday the 15th of February, and they're focusing on the Flax and Fleece project. And in response to the National Lottery Open Week, free admission for 2 days at the Gresson Hall attracted over 1,700 visitors, which is excellent. Rachel Kidd, curator, then talked about the current exhibition, The Jacket Women, Single Mothers of the Workhouse, presented by Maria Pavlidis. And the Jacket Women refers to single mothers in the 1830s to 1860s at Gresson Hall who were forced to wear distinctive jackets to mark them out. Good news, Gresson Hall Farm Workhouse has received a grant of $131,000 from NLHF to support the delivery of a series of activities to commemorate the site's 250th anniversary next year. The project was supported by a further grant of $11,500 from the Friends. And there will be a fixed-term research and community coordinator post and a community heritage trainee. The project will also deliver heritage theatre performances and themed events, a temporary exhibition about Beach House featuring new research and oral histories, a digital animation created by young people telling the history of the site, and an enhanced school holiday programme with self-led family trail. Over the winter period, a deep clean of open display collections in the Rural Life Galleries took place. And one of the main projects over winter has been the creation of a model Norfolk four-course rotation. That's not a meal, that's some agricultural use of the land. So we've got a pilot winter wheat plot, and the Suffolk horses are the two new ones are gradually settling in. Have been taking members of staff around on the trailer, so they're nearly up to full speed. The Community Tree Nursery continues to work towards the long-term aim to supply young trees to be planted at various sites around the county. And maintaining and growing a strong social media presence remains a key priority. And there are links in the codes to Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and TripAdvisor. For work experience, 2 students studying MA Cultural Heritage and Museum Studies at UEA will be undertaking their course placement at Gresson Hall. And I'll leave the item about attendances and kick the dust to Robin later. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. I wasn't able to get to the Julep Singh opening of the exhibition, but I've been a couple of times since. And last week I went to the Thomas Paine Hotel, where he's just decorated a room as Julep Singh's room, and there were about 100 people there. A lot of them were Sikhs. And
this local chairman wasn't invited.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
But that's not that's purely between me and Gez, I think.
Right. So, yes, he's very, very involved with the museum and with the Julep Singh story. Talking about the Suffolk Punches, I just want to remember old Bowler, who was, he died last year. He was a lovely horse. He gave lots of service to Gresson Hall. So, and I had the pleasure of spending a bit of time with him about 3 months before he died. So we'll remember him. Right, anything else on...
We did have a minute's silence for Bowler at the last meeting.
Right. Anything else on this report from anybody, please? No? Thank you. We'll move on then to item 6, Great Yarmouth Area Museums Working Group, page 29. Dr. Robin Handley will introduce this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the report, which starts on page 29, the minutes from the meeting of the 19th of March, and some of the early discussion in that meeting reflected on the success of the Miffy exhibition at Time and Tide, which ran from the 11th of October through to the 1st of March, and which saw really strong visitor numbers. Just for members' information, in the period of the exhibition's run between October and February, there were around 14,000 visits to Time and Tide, comparing to about 8,000 in the same period the previous year. And it's clear that exhibition performed really well and attracted a really broad audience, and had really good feedback from visitors of all ages. Members also heard about the range of activities and events that had been created to support that exhibition, and some 4,200 Miffy art trails were actually completed during the run of the exhibition, which just sort of gives a sense of the level of engagement from visitors. And then retail sales as well, really strong. There was an increase in that period from the previous year of 440%, and effectively everything was sold. The whole Miffy stock range was sold out, and it was really good to see, I think, the strength of the retail offer supporting what was a really excellent exhibition. So just to remind members, that exhibition was developed in partnership with Leeds museums, and working closely with the Dick Bruner archive, Dick Bruner being the author and illustrator of the Miffy stories. Members also heard about plans for the exhibition following on from Miffy, which is now open. So that's Pirates, Fact and Fiction, which actually opened on the 28th of March and which runs through until the 5th of September of this year. And then in terms of, I guess, celebrating the diversity of the temporary exhibition programme at Time and Tide, members also heard about the next temporary exhibition, which starts on the 26th of September, which is all about the story of roller skating in Great Yarmouth. So we think that will be a very popular exhibition over the winter period. Members also had an update on the Time and Tide redevelopment project, so still at very much an early stage. So the expression of interest that was submitted to the National Heritage Fund at the very start of that process was received successfully. So members were sort of briefed on the plans for the redevelopment of Time and Tide, mindful that that development phase will be extending over a number of years. And just for members' information, there's a visit from National Heritage Fund to Great Yarmouth on Monday to begin those conversations in a little bit more detail. Members also heard about the ongoing partnership work with the University of East Anglia, who've just been successful in securing some AHRC funding to support a digital interactive exploring the story of the Gloucester shipwreck. So a ship rat's eye view of the Gloucester. So this will be a sort of collaborative project involving UEA students and also young people involved with Time and Tide Museum, and the animation that's created as part of this will be displayed eventually in the Smokehouse Digital Gallery at Time and Tide Museum. There was also an update from the learning team who briefed members on some of the developments within the schools programme at Time and Tide, one of which includes the launch of a new Ancient Greece session for Year 5 Key Stage 2 pupils, and members heard about a pilot event with Hingham Primary School. school that went very well, really positive evaluation. So that ancient Greek offer, which was developed in direct response to a request from local teachers, will now form part of the ongoing programme at Time and Tide. And I think it sort of highlights the innovation and creativity of the learning team, because it's based around a Greek pot that's in the collections at Time and Tide, and that's formed the basis of a whole school session. Members also had an update on the different sort of kick the dust activities taking place within Great Yarmouth. There are a number of kick the dust groups based in the town, and one of the groups that members heard about was the relatively new Youth Climate Action Group, which principally involves young people based at East Norfolk Sixth Form College, who actually created an exhibition on Norfolk chalk streams that was displayed as part of the Earth Day event at Gresson Hall, which attracted 1,000 visitors, which was double what we'd seen in the previous year. And then to conclude the meeting, Andrew Smith, Operations Manager, presented the update on the visitor figures. And just for members' information, for the whole of the financial year 25 to 26, Time and Tide saw around 31,000 visits, which is an increase from the previous year of about 27,000, and the Miffy exhibition has obviously played a key part in that success. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on Great Yarmouth, please? No? Okay, thank you. We'll move on then to item 7, Norwich Area Museums Committee from page 49. Now, I was at that meeting, although I'm not recorded on the minutes, unfortunately.
Duly noted, Chair. I shall take that back.
I'll hand over to you then.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, the Norwich Area Museums Committee, which was held on the 3rd of March this year. So we were informed about the new Dungeons tour, and indeed some of us enjoyed the tour just prior to that committee meeting. Regarding some of the educational activities, we were updated on the new Maths and History Key Stage 3, Storming the Castle. We also heard about the Being Human, Hats Off, Hidden Histories and Millinery and Making, as well as the public programme for the Paul Arago Visions of English Literature. We had the Kick the Dust update. We were also then updated on events at other locations, including the Museum of Norwich, Strangers Hall, where members heard about the welcome return of Father Christmas to the hall, and also the Christmas Crafternoons that took place. And then finally, Strangers Hall closed January of this year for its deep clean. Included in the curatorial updates was the recent acquisition of Alfred Munning's Tombland Fair. And many thanks to Francesca Vanker for her help in securing this. I'd like to emphasise at this meeting. That's a summary of our committee meeting.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from anybody? No, thank you. Right, move on to item 8, Kings Lynn and West Norfolk Area Museums Committee. Dr. Robin Handley, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, minutes from the meeting of the 16th of March, and members heard about the success of the current exhibition, which is the Star Wars Collectibles May the Toys Be With You, and also had an update on the plans for the exhibition that will follow on in the summer, which is funded through the Newman Bequest and is showcasing the diverse collections held in store at Kings Lynn. So that's due to be opening on the 12th of June and has the working title of Secrets from the Stores. So that will be an opportunity to bring out from the stores the a range of material that illustrates how rich and diverse the King's Lynn Museum collections are, and a lot of those collections have benefited from the work that's been going on to improve documentation linked to the Newman bequest funding. The committee also heard about the broad range of ongoing events and activities, and Lynn Museum remains, despite having a relatively small team, very busy in terms of the programme that it offers, and details of those different events were provided in the meeting. Members also had an update on the collections documentation and collections management work taking place on the reserve collections, principally funded through the Newman bequest. In the publicity and promotion section, members had an update on social media activity, which has included the Exploring the Victorian Grills series on TikTok, which is where staff have basically been lifting the Victorian floor grills to find out what's hidden beneath. A voyage of discovery, which have received over 277,000 views on TikTok. So in terms of unusual ways to engage new audiences, a nice example. So there was quite a bit of discussion about that one in the committee meeting. Members also heard about the ongoing partnership working with the Borough Council, particularly the work around the St George's Guildhall project, and a number of NMS staff, myself included, are actively involved in supporting borough colleagues with the delivery of that complex project. And we've also been working with them on some of the objects that are destined for display within the redeveloped Guildhall. Members also had an update from Elizabeth Joyce, who's the Learning Engagement Officer, who is hosted by Norfolk Museum Service, but based in the Borough Council Stores of Lynn, based in King's Lynn Town Hall. And Elizabeth provided members with an update of all of the schools and informal learning events that she delivers, and also an update on Kick the Dust activity taking place in King's Lynn, and young people from the Time Turner collective based in Stores of Lynn are just this week installing an exhibition in the Town Hall exploring King's Lynn's role in the Civil War. Members also heard about the funding for a Kick the Dust traineeship supported by the Audio Memorial Stratford Trust, which is a King's Lynn-based charitable trust, who are funding 4 Kick the Dust traineeships based between the museums and archives in King's Lynn over the next 4 years. And at the end of the meeting, members were updated on the visitor figures for King's Lynn, and Lynn Museum has again had a strong year, finishing at the end of March with around 23,000 visits compared to 22,700 the previous year. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, any questions or comments on King's Lynn? Councillor Fisher.
Just picking up on the Victorian grills, and I'm not a TikTok follower, and I noticed on your papers you do say that it is on Facebook as well, but I'm not a big Facebook person either. I mean, what exactly is being conveyed on the social media channels, and how? I mean, are there any other ways of accessing what you might be finding under the grills? Will there be an exhibition later, maybe?
Sadly, I don't think they found anything particularly exciting under the grills, but it did leave a lot of people curious. We have a really extensive social media across all of our sites now, and it's very much driven by the staff based at the sites. We call them our social media champions, and they meet regularly to come up with sort of creative ideas and think about how to develop the social media content and increase followers. And so they all have their own really quite sort of distinct identity, and different followers, but also we're trying to make sure that we keep a sort of a tone of voice across all of the different feeds. So it's very much a Norfolk Museum Service approach. And we have a comms officer based at Shire Hall who coordinates and supports all of the social media champions who do it as part of their day job.
And could you, what was the figure of the numbers that are...
That was just one TikTok. TikToks tend to be less than 2 minutes videos in length, and just that one had 277,000 views. Yes, so from right across the whole world as well, not just local people.
I think, Chair, what it does is it highlights sometimes the unexpected stories that attract attention, and all of those heating grills were actually replaced in the early 2000s as part of the Lynn Museum project, but the original Victorian cast iron grill covers are where they've always been, and I think they're coming across lots of pencils dropped by school groups and that sort of thing. But yes, it just, I think, highlights, as Joe was saying, you know, you never quite know what's going to engage visitors, and you know, the team at Lynn also produce a lot more what you would characterise as traditional social media content, you know, celebrating the collections and activities. But it sort of highlights some of those quirky stories that, you know, attract interest, and it's a bit baffling, isn't it? But there we are, social media.
That's given me an idea to pull up the Victorian heating grills in our church, actually, and see what's there. In fact, a few weeks ago, a little girl nearly got her hand stuck trying to get a 5p she could see down there. Yes, indeed. Right, any other questions on King's Lynn? No? Well, we'll note all the minutes from the area meetings, thank you. And we'll go on to item 9, Norfolk Museum Service Finance Monitoring Report for 2025-26 from page 88. And Steve will introduce that, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. To bring members up to date in terms of the revenue position for the financial year just finished 31st of March, we have continued to see, I should say, rather a welcome and continuing improvement to the museum's revenue position. Obviously, things turned round significantly and positively with the reopening of the Keep and the full Norwich Castle offer in August last summer, and that's continued. We've effectively seen a sort of legacy from the slower start at the beginning of the year, and whilst the year-end adjustments are still in their final stages and ongoing, we're forecasting at the moment that we're going to have to make a drawdown of about 189k. Positively, that's likely to come, at least in the majority of that amount, from the legacy business risk reserve that was sitting in the old, as it was, CES directorate. We're looking ahead, much more confident now that we've had at least 6 months of operation of the Newcastle and all that comes with that, and trading as we might describe is very much back to at least as it was, if not at a slightly higher elevated level. So we enter the new financial year, as always, with caution, and there'll be some challenges, I'm sure, ahead, but we are trading fully and in many ways very positively from the 1st of April just gone. So we can look ahead, I think, with a lot more optimism to the 12 months ahead. I think that's really the big headline where we finished last year, and happy to take any questions, Chair.
Okay, any questions, anybody? Yes, Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Chair. The report talks about the service perhaps being sort of highly exposed in the future to obviously visitor numbers holding up sufficiently, secondary spend continuing, and major assets continuing to perform well. So a couple of questions, if I may. The first is what happens if that secondary spend softens due to sort of cost of living pressures? And the second question is, in light of the Royal Palace Reborn project, what work is being carried out to ensure that the service is commercially aligning itself to the city's major festival weeks to maximise its revenue and investment in the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So I think I can probably take that at the top level, and Robin can fill in with any gaps. So I think the first is that we are in an uncertain world, and definitely external factors, including cost of living, plays into that. I think we've worked really, really hard over the last 5 or 10 years, but particularly having put in place some strong trading in terms of retail, and some of our events and things like that. So the 12 months ahead, to mitigate any potential impact as far as possible, I think it'll be offering great value visits, but really trying to maximise the benefits from the Royal Palace Reborn project in terms of new events, extra weddings, breakfast meetings, hires to business, and lots of events. So that's going to be a real focus. So I think the best we can say is that we're very much geared towards that as a focus for the forthcoming 12 months. Robin may wish to add.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. So I think in terms of profiling income, it's a really interesting question, because whilst we've seen a high level of visits following the reopening of the castle, there's an expectation that those visitor numbers will reduce, but it's what this sort of stable figure then ends up sitting at. So our business planning assumed in the first full year of opening we would see 300,000 visits, and we're well on track to delivering that in the first full year of the castle being open, and then settling back to 250, 260,000. So it'll be obviously very interesting to analyse where we get to this coming 12-month period in terms of attendance levels. I think it's been very encouraging that attendances has held up, and that obviously drives admissions income, but it also drives the secondary spend through retail and catering. The income stream that we have seen significant growth in is our Museum Pass membership scheme. Members will be aware of the Access All Eras marketing campaign that we're wearing the lanyards for at the moment, but that has seen a significant increase in Museum Pass memberships, taking us up to over 10,000, and most of those, well, virtually all of those people are on direct debit. So in terms of sustainable income streams, that's really important. And in the original business planning, growth in Museum Pass linked to the opening of the new offer at the castle was a really significant moment, and I think we've taken that opportunity with support from Arts Council through the Museum Renewal Fund, and then continuing to build the commercial offer. So if we are seeing a limited reduction in secondary spend linked to potentially some what we hope to be modest reductions in overall visitor numbers, the sort of intention is they would be offset by growth in commercial income. And over the autumn into winter period, we delivered and evaluated a really broad range of commercial events using the new spaces in the castle, which I think have proved even more flexible than we had hoped they would be, accommodating everything from contemporary dance through to medieval banquets and full sit-down dinners alongside awards ceremonies, etc. So, and I know that some members will have seen, those spaces in action for some of those events. We're currently recruiting for a new venue hire manager for Norwich Museums, and putting more capacity into that team to really push the commercial offer through the Norwich museums, not just Norwich Castle, but clearly that's where the greatest opportunity lies. So I think it's sort of diversifying those income generation opportunities as much as possible. And I think if you look at sort of sustaining visitor numbers with admissions, retail, catering, continuing to build museum pass, and then also maximising opportunities through commercial activity. And that then gives us, you know, a really good chance, I think, of maintaining a sustainable income stream in what are challenging times, as you say.
Thank you. Any further questions? No, we're asked to consider. Oh, John, yes.
Thanks, Chair. So you looked away just as I put my hand up. Just a question. I'm not sure if this is the exact place, but because it's mentioned, I think on page 91, the second phase of the castle rebuild, which refers to the toilet block and the cafe. I was surprised, having visited a number of times, there's a couple of what I would regard issues with that. I mean, I'm surprised that within 4 years, some of the toilet accessories, taps, etc., are in the state they are. And I just wonder whether we have any comeback from the developers. I know we have discussed the lift in the past, but I just wonder what the update is on that. And there is, in the cafe, there's an obvious issue with the fact the counter is at a different height to where you slide your trays. And last time I was there, there was a couple of spills of milk, and the staff obviously know it's an issue because immediately it happened, they were dashing about with stuff to mop it up. I just wonder whether a simple thing like that is being looked at, or whether we're going to live with it, because I think we should look at it.
No, absolutely, really good question, and I think the truth is, with a lot of the building, we are sort of learning as we go, and making improvements as we go. With the toilet block, there are still outstanding works that have been identified to complete, which include elements such as lighting. So those works are actually scheduled, and we have had some issues with the taps that you mentioned. So these have all been identified, and the operations manager for Norwich Museum is very on it in terms of picking up these issues and trying to find sustainable solutions without then compromising the sort of architectural intent of those spaces, because it wouldn't be appropriate to have the sort of equipment that might be in the toilets here at County Hall in that type of setting. So we continue to work really closely with the architects and the main contractor, because we're still in the sort of defects period for the main keep itself. So those conversations are ongoing, and we're continuing to look at improvements. Likewise, the cafe, we've seen obviously the cafe get a lot busier. We have now the sort of established model of the main cafe operating and then being supplemented during busy periods with the pop-up cafe in the rotunda. That's been working really well and gives visitors the choice in terms of whether they want to perhaps wait a bit longer for a main meal in the cafe, or access the sort of more limited offer if they just want something quick in the rotunda. There's been a lot of to and fro with the servery in the main cafe, and the plate, the sort of tray rack that you reference was installed relatively recently. So we are still, I guess, sort of evaluating how that's working. But again, our catering manager is working really closely with the operations team at the castle, and we're continuing to make tweaks. And it's really helpful to have that sort of feedback. And we're also very alert to general visitor feedback. We're still capturing, as you would expect, a lot of visitor evaluation, whether it's about the displays or the toilets or the wayfinding, and responding to that. So it's not finished is the reality, and we're continuing to listen to visitors and make interventions where they can. Sometimes, because of the nature of the building and the protections it has, it can be a little bit more complex than visitors might perhaps anticipate. But we are, working on things as fast as we can. But that's a really good point, and I'll pick that up with the operations manager.
Also, because it was mentioned on a programme on Radio 4, I wasn't listening, but it was brought to my attention, where someone said, this is absolutely amazing to have a castle where you can get wheelchair access to the battlements. And so I just wondered, where are we with the lift?
Lifts are operational, yeah. So we have improved, I think, the sort of support that we're providing to visitors up on the roof. So our front of house staff who are based up on the roof terrace are sort of actively supporting visitors wanting to use the platform lift, but all the lifts are operational.
Okay. Right. Well, we're asked to consider and comment on the latest monitoring position of the revenue budget, capital programme reserves and provisions and forecast outturn for 2025-26. Everybody happy? Good. Right. Item 10, Norfolk Museum Service Risk Management Report from page 95. I'll ask Steve to introduce this.
Thank you, Chair. So, as members of the committee will know, we present to you the what we consider the key risks for the service under two parts: one live risks and those which are ongoing in terms of monitoring, and a couple of risks which are, as we describe them, met, which we think are important to just show you that they have been considered and that we believe mitigated as far as possible. So on page 96 of your packs, the proposal under 2.1 is for risk RM14162, which is failure to generate additional income streams for 26-27, the year ahead, in accordance with the service plan. The risk title has been updated to reference the new financial year, and 2.2, any risks that are an ongoing risk are continuing to be reviewed quarterly, but we've changed the target dates to those at the end of the financial year, if that's what we deem appropriate. But just to reassure members, we continue to keep those risks under active management with able and very kind support from Thomas Osborne, our senior risk manager within the County Council. No new risks to bring to your attention. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you. I think it's very good that all the risks are either met or green at the moment. Right, anybody got any comments or questions? Yes.
Just a small comment, really. I assume that the risks that are now past, say for the castle, they'll just disappear, will they? We don't need to keep seeing them each time, do we? It's just more to sort of look through.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, all risks, when they get to a point where they're fully discharged, a couple of risks are sort of long tails to them, including I think the keep. But when we get to the end of that, any risk, we will close it down. The two Mets are special. We don't really have that kind of approach in other parts of the County Council, but we think things like the flooding, it's important to show you that as committee members, we continue to consider those, but at one point they were live risks. They've not dropped off and disappeared altogether because, of course, flooding can happen at any time for a variety of reasons in different parts of the county. But we do believe, particularly since we moved the subterranean stores, collection stores to other parts of the county from Great Yarmouth, we certainly feel we've mitigated that as far as possible, and likewise in King's Lynn. But we can sadly never say never when it comes to flood risk. So that's it. Yeah, but risks, once they're fully met and we're confident we've discharged all responsibilities and actions, they will be removed from the list, and other ones, as always, will come to you for your thoughts and comments in due course. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, the recommendation is that we consider and agree the proposed key updates to risks as set out in 2.1 and the active and dormant risks as per appendices A and B. All happy with that? Thank you. Item 11, Norfolk Museum Service Performance and Strategic Update Report from page 114. And Steve again, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And as always, I'll take members through the report at a reasonable pace, beginning with the performance summary on page 115. I'll pick out a few highlights, but happy to take any questions at any point, and certainly pausing between sections, the performance report and then the strategy. So the visitor numbers and the school numbers that you have before you on page 115, they were correct at the time when we issued the reports up to the end of February and December respectively, but I am pleased to be sitting here in front of you towards the end of April with the full year's figures for the 10 museums, and they're reassuringly positive. So we've had over 432,000 visits across the 10 museums up to the 31st of March 2026, so a very good March, and particularly early part of the Easter period across all the 10 museums, but particularly Norwich Castle. So relative context, it's been a long time since we've passed the 400,000 visits a year mark, so that's really good. With a full year's operation of the castle, who knows, we might have been nudging closer to 500,000, which really would be an all-time record high, but I think 432,000 is pretty much up there in terms of our 50-odd year history. Very pleased to say, equally positive and good to see, is that the school visits and the learning visits that we report to you, they've now been finally collated and presented to us, and they're over 52,000. So again, you will remember in years gone by, we once hit, I think, 50,000. That was an all-time record at the time. So I think we are in new and very positive territory, largely driven by very strong numbers at Norwich Castle since the reopening, but strong numbers across all the other 9 Norfolk Museum Service sites as well, and definitely putting us in the top of the Premier League in terms of museum visits anywhere in the country, outside certainly the large London nationals. So really credit to, I think, Jan, Colin and all the colleagues, particularly in the learning teams across the museum service, and a nice figure to be presenting to you today. On the second page, 116, again, just to pick out probably one key highlight from the new marketing and museum pass update that we've included in these reports for you, and that's the Norfolk Museum Pass hits 10,000 members. So Joint Museum Committee members over, if you've been with us for a period of time, you'll know, and I think Joe's just referenced it, and so has Robin, you know, the Museum Pass is such a critical way that we engage with people. It's really great value. It encourages lots of return visits, hopefully bringing friends and family with a lot of people. It's a key income stream because it's recurring, and it is the bedrock of where we sort of build from. So we fell to a low point, I think understandably so, around COVID and post-COVID, but we've worked really hard. So I think credit to Joe and colleagues in the marketing team particularly, but all our front of house staff who've helped engage people, sell those museum passes, and hopefully we'll continue to drive from others. So lots of other interesting updates in terms of marketing and publicity. Hopefully you've seen some of our advertising. We've touched upon the Access All Eras campaign, which I think is lovely and is very visible. So on lots of places, including bus backs and things like that. And thank you to DCMS and Arts Council for the really generous support for making that possible. On pages 119 onwards, again, just updates on where we are with some of the social media input. We've touched upon TikTok and Lynn Museum, but most sites you can see are driving good engagement, and that's really important for lots of reasons, not least because it always results in a good number of extra physical visits beyond that which people would find their way to us from other means. So that's the marketing update. We're at a really lovely point in time in terms of the Teaching Museum, page 123. So I'll just hand over to Joe for a quick update on where we are with the previous cohort and the new cohort just coming in.
Thank you. The previous cohort have completed their traineeship and ended it at the end of March. and are already securing work. We've managed to retain at least one of them within Norfolk Museum Services learning team. And the new cohort started on the 1st of April, and they are settling in really well and are going to, I think, be great for the service. So we have Dan Smith is our communications trainee, working with the marketing and comms team, based in Shirehall, but working across the service. We have Alex Cripps, who's our collections management trainee, mainly based at Gresson Hall at the Collection Centre, but again working across all sites with a particular focus on collections rationalisation. In King's Lynn, at Lynn Museum, we have Annabelle Goman, who is our collections audit trainee. And our final four is Stephanie Watson, who is our natural history curatorial trainee, again working across several sites, based in Shirehall, but working each week at Cromer Museum and at the Collection Centre. So they're going to have a very varied week, very varied year with us, and the real advantage, I think, why Teaching Museum is so successful and why it works so well for Norfolk Museum Service is that it takes all staff involvement, whether that be as supervisors, mentors, delivering training, and just generally supporting the trainees so that they get a full breadth of experience across all aspects of museum practice. So we're very lucky that our staff are very supportive and engaged in the programme, and that's what makes it so successful.
Thank you, Jo. And just to hand over for a brief update on where we are with Kick the Dust from Robin.
Thank you, Steve. Just for members' information, we've now appointed a new programme coordinator. Tricia Hall, who had previously been Youth Engagement Officer based in Great Yarmouth and had actually been helping cover the coordinator role, has been confirmed as the new Kick the Dust programme coordinator, and Tricia took up her new post this week. We continue to support a really diverse range of Kick the Dust groups of young people across the county, and it's been good to see new groups coming forward in addition to the more established groups like THC in Thetford and Time Turners in King's Lynn. I mentioned in the Great Yarmouth Minutes the new group that's been exploring environmental themes, that's recently been involved with activities and exhibitions linked to the Earth Day event at Gresson Hall. So we continue to develop the programme and continue to develop new groups to support young people's different interests. We continue to operate a really successful youth board, which tends to be young people who've been involved with Kick Dust over months, if not in some cases years. They continue to be a really useful sounding board and continue to play an active part in our steering group. We've recently concluded a review of our mental health and wellbeing evaluation with colleagues from Norfolk Public Health. Members may be aware that for some time we've been tracking the positive impacts of Kick the Dust engagement around young people's mental health and wellbeing, and we were using an evaluating methodology developed a few years ago with Public Health and our youth board, and we've recently sort of tested whether that remains current, which we've had confirmed that it does. So that sort of gives us reassurance that we continue to track and report data in the right way, and we'll continue to obviously report that data through to area committees and to this committee. And then the final thing I wanted to mention was that we've, and I touched on this in the King's Lynn report, we've continued to develop our offer around supporting young people's skills progression. We have been evaluating and redesigning our work experience offer, which gives young people a range of opportunities to learn about museum and heritage careers and to meet staff involved in those jobs. We've also developed our traineeship offer, and in addition to the trainee post that I mentioned in Kings Lynn, supported through the Audrey Muriel Stratford Trust, we're also, we've just recruited trainees to join the Norwich Learning Team, supported through the Geoffrey Watling Foundation, and we're also funding 2 traineeships in Great Yarmouth. So these are paid traineeships. It's about 10 hours a week and open to young people involved in the programme, including YMCA clients. So the programme continues to develop, and looking forward to working with Tricia as she takes on the permanent role of programme coordinator. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Robin. And just to finish off this section, take any questions members have after that. Partnerships on page 132, I'm sure members will have spotted in the national press and on the programme Digging for Britain early this year, the really fantastic discovery of a major Iron Age hoard, including carnacies, Iron Age battle trumpets, and that partnership with Historic England and the development partners is an ongoing one. So I am sure that will be a story that we'll bring back to this committee in time to come. But for now, I just say it's probably one of the most significant archaeological finds of our lifetime. Wouldn't be stating it too strongly. And Jonathan Clark, who's pictured on page 133, doing a great job with working with colleagues in the Norfolk Museum Service Conservation Department to help prepare those important finds. The other partnership work to particularly bring to your attention today is that relating to North Norfolk District Council and the really important ongoing government-funded Coastwise project, and Dr. Leanne Melbourne, our Senior Curator of Climate Change and Dynamic Coast, working closely with Joe Jones, our Curator of the Eastern Area Museums, is working on a very exciting cross-discipline exhibition which we will be bringing to audiences in the Norwich Castle Tea Galleries in February 2027. So that's a really exciting output from the North Norfolk project and the ongoing work. More locally to North Norfolk, Leanne and Joanna are continuing to work on the development of the Cromer Museum Geology Gallery, which is a lovely development, engaging local councillors, members of the Coastwise team, geologists, and other heritage partners. So that's a really great set of partnerships in North Norfolk. And again, looking at a show supported by the National Lottery Heritage Fund projects around Cromer fossil collectors and collecting. So partnerships continue to be very important, and just a reminder that Norfolk Museum Service does some of its, I think, very best work slightly beyond the walls of the museums and across the whole of the county. Exhibitions we've picked up as part of the area committee reports, but just to say from a personal point of view, I think the In Proximity Open Art Show, which is on until the 14th of June, is a really magnificent show, working closely with East Anglia Art Fund and highlighting some of the very best talent we have across the east of England. Some wonderful work and wonderful artists, and the 7 decades of contemporary art, working with Norfolk Contemporary Art Society, who are celebrating their 70th birthday this year. So 2 lovely shows, very complimentary, and a really nice contrast to the medieval on display within the keep. So strong programme across the whole of the county, lots of lovely events to look forward to over the spring and summer, and Joe, Robin and I will be pleased to take any questions you might have before I briefly and finally move on to updates on strategic developments. Thank you.
All right, any questions? Yes, Councillor Watkins.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair, and thank you to all 3 officers for their presentations. Thank you. I think everybody on this committee and on the other area committees would celebrate the great success of the Kick the Dust scheme since its inception several years ago. It's become very much, I think, a jewel in the crown of the Norfolk Museums Services activities. long may that continue. It certainly has helped to provide young people with the opportunity for self-development and providing them with opportunities for volunteering and training and employment opportunities as well, and good news about the new groups coming forward as well. I just wanted to ask how Kick the Dust is going to sustain itself post 2027. There must be some, perhaps, doubt about that, so perhaps some reassurance on that would be helpful. My second point really concerns, obviously we have a lot of people visiting the county museums across Norfolk to enjoy the experience, and hopefully many of them will come back for more and bring their friends and bring families along as well. I just wanted to ask how the service is measuring quality and long-term impact in addition to obviously monitoring volume. Thank you.
So thank you, Councillor Watkins. In terms of the Kick the Dust query, at the moment we have a sort of mixed funding model for Kick the Dust. The majority of the funding comes through Arts Council England, and we have an uplift grant linked to the National Portfolio Organisation funding that we receive, and we're expecting that now to continue to March 2028. And we will be no doubt applying for further extensions to that programme, and Arts Council, I think, have recognised as you said, the impact of Kick the Dust work. So whilst we will need to go through an application process, absolutely, I think we would remain quietly confident that Arts Council will continue to recognise the impact that programme has. We also, as members are aware, receive funding through Norfolk Public Health, and again that's based on the sort of evidenced impact that we have around young people's mental health and well-being, and the recent review that we've undertaken of our evaluation methodology with Public Health, I think underlines their ongoing support for the programme. And I think as long as we can continue to measure and demonstrate impact, then I would like to think again we would be able to continue to benefit from funding from Public Health. But I think the team have also been very good at pursuing more what you might term project funded opportunities with a range of funders, and that's supported the delivery of quite a bit of Kick the Dust activity. So I think the project team are now really being very creative in terms of identifying and going after project funding. And I think that will mean that going forward, we should remain in a strong position. We've also been successfully, I think, now building offers that we can discuss with charitable trusts, particularly around work-based training. So it's been very interesting that we've now secured funding for what we might characterise as core Kick the Dust activity in terms of paid traineeships through 2 different charitable trusts now. So I think it will, as with a lot of our activity, it will be a mixed economy. But I think we would be certainly quietly confident of being able to sort of maintain that core funding through both Arts Council England and Norfolk Public Health.
Yes, Councillor.
Just to answer your second question about how we monitor quality, I think that one of the new ways where we're getting much more robust evidence is through the citizen space surveys that we now issue to every visitor who has bought a ticket online. They're sent a survey after their visit, so we were able to gather a lot of data about visitor profile, where they've come from, how far they've travelled, if it's their first visit and that sort of thing. But it also asks for qualitative feedback as well. So we're getting a lot of comments, and so those are reports are now reported to the area museum committees at each meeting. Our marketing manager, Molly Taylor, gathers together the data, and it's giving us a lot of new insight and information that we didn't previously have.
Councillor Shibili Sexton.
Thank you, and to echo everything Ryan said, this has been really interesting. I've really appreciated it. I've also now found the museum and looked at the TikToks. They're fun, on TikTok and Instagram. But I was wondering, for the Future of the Arts Council funding, you're currently looking for funding from 2028, and I was wondering how will that work with the new three unitary things, because you're looking for funding for Norfolk County Council, which may not exist when the bid comes through, and if that will have an impact on anything or your likelihood of getting it. I'm just curious and looking for reassurance on that.
Thank you for the question. I think I'd approach it in two parts. I'll first say the local government reorganisation. We now have some of the facts, including the sort of Minder 2 decision and the shape of the three unitaries that we're moving towards. You're right, sort of the timescales running parallel to other things we've got going on across different services, including our Arts Council England approach. So the politicians will make good decisions, I'm sure, in terms of the shape of services and the future of how things progress as we move into that unitary period. I think for now, we can plan on the fact that the joint museum service and the joint agreement exists, and will do so at least until the 31st of March. And I think we can put forward with confidence a strong application to the Arts Council, and if things change in the future, we'll obviously have to deal with that, and then the Arts Council will have to factor that in. At the moment, the funding, as I said, you're correct, does come to the joint service, and that's where we are at the moment. But our focus in the short term is very much continuing to deliver an excellent programme and make sure that against our existing KPIs, our business plan, Joe will pick that up in a moment, and things like the overall sort of service risk, we manage those to the best of our ability. So there's lots of things in the short term, whilst the political wheels are turning in the short and medium time. But thanks for the question. We will return to this topic, I am sure, many times over the coming joint museum meetings. Thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Chairman. Regarding visitors, now obviously world events are indicating that there may be more vacations, holidays taken within this country. Is there any way we're looking forward to taking more advantage of that in terms of advertising the castle and the museums? I'm thinking perhaps of the Broads visitors that come to Norwich looking for a respite from reed and water and a bit of life and culture.
Thank you so much, Councillor. I think it's a really great question, and probably picking up Councillor Watkins' earlier question, which I don't think we answered in full, about how we connect with other things. So I think we have got a really strong offer. None of our museums exist in isolation. They're all part of the communities and the tourist infrastructure in which they sit. So whether it's Great Yarmouth, Kings Lynn, Thetford, Cromer, Norwich, they're doing a job in connecting with that broader tourism offer. So the local visitor economy partnership, which is the combined tourism approach from Norfolk and Suffolk, Norwich Castle, for example, is one of the key deliverables within the destination management plan that's just been created. So we'd hope that all our museums are a really good and important part of the visitor economy. They're linking in with trails, theatres, Norfolk and Norwich Festival, etc. So it's our job to sort of link those together. And the wonderful thing about coming to Norfolk, as we know, is it has pretty much something for everyone, and not everywhere can say that. So whether you are interested in the coast, the Broads, the Brecks, city breaks, heritage, activities for the family, I think we offer something really, really strong and unique. So those will all come together, and we've just got to keep working close with our local destination management organisations like Visit North Norfolk and Visit Norwich, and then the sort of the national programme. One thing to particularly mention, just looking a little further ahead, is that the 2027 will be Year of the Normans, so the celebrations on an international basis. We hope that's a good chance to welcome international visits. But if there's more domestic visitors this year, staycation type of effect, we'll be standing closely by to try and tempt them into any of our 10 museums, and dare I say, particularly at the moment, while the spotlight is upon Norwich Castle, it's a great offer and one that we can hopefully see some really strong visitors from outside the county coming to see over the coming months particularly. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kybird.
Just on the subject of LGR, just to point out that the 3 unitary bid did contain a statement of a preferred option for a whole of Norfolk Joint Museum Service and for records. I made sure that went in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, Councillor Beauchamp, go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, when you were saying about the monitoring, Joe, you were saying that as online, but is there a chance that people can have a paper one? Because not everybody still isn't online, are they? So are we offering that as well?
Not yet, but we are looking into how we can do that, whether that is doing it on site with tablets and you know, asking people the same questions in person. So yeah, we're trying to figure out exactly the simplest way to do that in terms of staff capacity at the moment. But yes, you're right, we know that we're not capturing everyone, but we know we're getting quite good numbers now, so we'll carry on looking into that.
Okay. Do you want to say some more on this report?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. So just to draw us to a conclusion on this report, we'll move to the strategic headlines. Norwich Castle, Royal Palace, Royal Barn. Members asked for an update on that. You've got some headlines in your report on page 139 in terms of the 214,000 visitors up to the end of March. Compared to 91,000 for the year before, and as Robin's said, you know, on track to meet the first year stretching target of 300,000 visitors for the first full year of opening, and likewise the Norwich Learning team working really hard with those really key programmes that underpin a lot of what we did the project to deliver. Robin will pick up the all things to do with Norwich Castle following the conclusion of the meeting with some slides just to take you through that. Moving through the rest of the performance report, we've got our Arts Council update on page 141 onwards, and you've got the appendices in terms of overall performance. So at the end of the formal part of this presentation, Joe, we're happy to take any questions you might have on Arts Council performance. We've touched upon the very exciting Ancient House Museum. Thank you to Councillor Kybird for the updates on the anniversary celebration and the reopening of the major new gallery, thanks to the support, particularly the National Lottery Heritage Fund. And on page 143, Norfolk Museum Service continues to be a key partner within the delivery of the Norfolk Creativity and Wellbeing Week. And for members, you'll remember that happens once a year. It is a week-long celebration of everything to do with creativity and wellbeing. People can sign up to particular events across lots of different cultural organisations, including the Museum Service. And Norfolk is proud to be the deliverer of the largest number of events. We say outside London occasionally, and we deliver more events than London, but it's a really nice feather in the cap for Norfolk as a county, and this is, again, representative of the sort of work that's going on 12 months of the year, not for 1 week of the year. So it's a particular spotlight on wellbeing programmes and opportunities for local residents, especially over that week, 18th to the 24th of May, and there's a link there if you want to know a little more. And finally, from me, happy to take any questions after that. We have museum development across Norfolk. So the Museum Development South East programme, run jointly between Norfolk Museum Service and Brighton and Hove Museums, continues to deliver some really important programmes. It's entirely funded by Arts Council England, and Jamie Everett and colleagues I think are doing an outstanding job. So supporting museums, including those in Norfolk, with things like accreditation, conservation advice, how to be more sustainable, etc. So lots of great work going on, and Joe and I particularly help support that directly and through the steering and oversight group which Arts Council requires of us. So a very important programme delivered through the museum service and in partnership with great colleagues in Brighton. So happy to draw the formal bit of the presentation to a conclusion, take any questions members might have, following which, after John's brought the meeting to a formal conclusion, Robin will be happy to give you that presentation on the castle and everything that's happening there.
Councillor Kyburn.
Just to add to the activity on the Dulip Sings, Kensington Palace is currently hosting an exhibition on the Royal Princesses of the Punjab, and I think there's a book launch next month. There's a new Peter Banks book.
Okay, anything else from anybody? Those books are for sale in the Ancient House Museum at the moment, actually. Yeah. £44.99, I think. Okay.
I've been promised a signed copy because of my photos in it. Bye.
Okay, anything else finally on this report? No? So the recommendation is that we receive an update on the 2025-26 performance to date, and to note progress in terms of our key Arts Council England and National Lottery Heritage Fund programmes for 2025-26, and the services delivery of its Arts Council England National Portfolio Organisation programme for 2023 to 2027. Everybody happy with that? Good, thank you. Right. Well, just before the presentation, I just want to say this is the last meeting of the Norfolk Joint Museums Committee of the 5-year session of the Council. So I'd like to thank all the members for their time and interest during the years, and thank all the officers for their efficiency and hard work over the last 5 years. Thank you. Okay, did you want to say something, Steve?
Thank you, Chair, and I'm making that exact point. The end of the political cycle, and mindful some members won't be standing again. I just want to say on behalf of Joe, Robin and myself, a heartfelt thanks to John as our chair, to Robert as our vice chair, and to all the members of the committee for your unwavering support and enthusiasm and commitment to the museum service and its work over the 5-year period. We are deeply grateful to you all, so thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we've got the presentation now.